My Pastors are the podcast where we talk about all that shit pastors said. My name's Kris.
And I'm Dano.
Hey, we're excited. Dano, how was your holidays?
It was good. Had a little time with you and the fam up in the North Woods.
It sounds like you're about to tell a joke. Like you're using your voice to well, did you hear about the one?
Kris, I always got one in the chamber.
Let's hear it then. What's the chamber?
No, I don't have it.
Yeah, called your fucking bluff. That's what we call it, Dano.
I loved it. We had a great holiday. Kids were home for 2 weeks, which is crazy. I got 3 kids under 10. And yeah, it's a lot, but it was good.
Not to call you out on this, but I was in Walgreens yesterday. We haven't talked about this yet. And I saw a Barbie dream house that was on sale 70% off for your daughter. I was going to pay for it. And you said no.
I know. That was a tough one.
Yeah. Why did you say no to dreams and fun?
Because I'm a part of a family, and a part of this family said that we shouldn't buy it. And that she's done
I was going to buy it.
No, it's mostly the space, according to this member of the family. And that's okay, because we love her. Don't we, folks?
Yes. Because in 20 years, you're going to be like, good thing we saved that 2 foot by 1 foot space.
Listen, can't get into it now. Christmas was good.
Christmas was great. I for one of our holiday traditions is if Joe Plant is listening, we were freshman roommates at North Central Bible College, and we found a Christmas ornament that was a bird. Do you remember Deke, Dano? It's a black bird, and it's like its head's falling off. There's barely any feathers on it, but I sing a song that I put on top of the tree, and my wife and my kids fucking hate it. So awesome. I make it a tradition where I sing louder every year, because that's nothing says happy birthday, Jesus, like spite singing about a bird.
I got a Hot Ones hot sauce packet, like the full lineup from a family member. You know, Hot Ones, the show on YouTube.
I mean, I know. Anyways, I've never seen one episode of it ever. Not even a second.
It's good. Check it out. I think in a few years we'll get there, but we'll get to goals for the pod later in this segment.
We're gonna get where?
On to Hot Ones.
You and I.
Anyway, yeah.
Don't leave me behind, Dano.
I've never felt shittier in my life than tasting every one of those hot sauces in one sitting on a chicken wing and drinking gallons of milk. Because my mouth was on fire.
I thought you were talking about you're feeling emotionally shitty. You're talking about physically.
Like when I open up the present, I'm like, great, thanks for nothing.
That's what I thought. You're going like, what is your hatred towards?
It's like, I wanted a new car toy.
A car toy. What is the single? Hold on. What is the single greatest gift you have ever received? Don't take a long time to think about.
As a kid perspective, Talk Boy, baby. It was the only gift that I ever got, like the hot gift of the season. And Home Alone 2 had just come out, and I got it.
And Kira my daughter and I just watched Home Alone 2, and when Talk Boy came out, I'm like, Dano had that hot shit.
Yeah, and it was fucking awesome.
They did not.
And I wish I still had it.
No, you don't.
What?
Do you really? Why would you still? We have.
He checked into a hotel with it, Kris. What's not to love? Show me how a phone could do that.
Yeah, exactly. My since you asked, my favorite present was what did you call those Micro Machines aircraft carrier? Do you remember that?
I remember that. That was amazing.
That was and it had like the little lever where it can move the planes up and down to different decks. That was some hot shit.
That was awesome.
Okay, enough of this. Let's. I'm in a dreaming mood. Do you do New Year's resolutions? Like, honestly, not as a bit. Do you do them?
I usually have a couple, and just I bounce around, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to share what those bouncing around ones are?
You want me to tell you mine right now?
If you want to. I'm going a different direction.
I mean, mine are all pretty classic. I want to get in better shape. I want to read more books. But
the hot little tip, you're a little behind on your New Year resolution.
This isn't a video podcast.
I like the idea of them more than the functionality of them, or not functionality, more than like actually carrying them out, because there was a season in evangelicalism we were so driven by goals. Like the church that I was a part of was so goal driven, and it felt super hot, sexy back then. And now I'm like, I think it's either PTSD or I'm burnt out on it. So like in my personal life, I still bounce around with them. But in my fucking professional life on a podcast, I do have some dreams for this.
So let's talk about some goals and things we want to see in the next year for this podcast.
Yeah. So, and to all the dozens of people listening to this, we'd also like to hear the things that you guys are hoping that we talk on, or we topics or guests that you're hoping that we bring on. And of course, Garfield Christmas is going to be in there somewhere.
It's an unreleased video. That's coming podcast episode.
That's going to be for the paywall people, obviously. It's really good. I spent over an hour journaling and writing down thoughts for that. I just want to let okay. So, but for dreams, my first dream, or the first thing I want to see for the podcast, is I want to see a better representation of our meaning. I would love to see. We'd really want to see more queer people on to share their experiences about spirituality, life, culture, and there's a couple people like we probably shouldn't say. There's a couple people that we're like, man, if we can land this guest, like one of them we are recording in a couple weeks. We have Dave Schmeltzer, if you guys know Schmeltzer from Vineyard Days or Blue Ocean Days. So I think that we've done a good job at getting like heterosexual white men. we're killing it at that. But I'd really like to see a much more diverse representation. How about you, Dano?
Yeah, kind of along with that. I want to see us. First of all, I want to hear more stories. I'd love to encourage, just ask anybody listening to call in with stories that you had about shit pastors or teachers or whoever have said to you in the past. You can do that at shitmypastorsaid.com. Just give a quick plug.
Yeah, and
also,
just on that, like we had someone who went to our website and then clicked there's a little microphone button where you can record your story. We had someone do that. I forgot to tell you that. On-air production meeting. Yep, we had someone.
Sweet. Thanks, person.
Yeah, thanks, person.
I also want to see some guests. I want to have guests on that we don't know. We're hitting that well of people in our lives, which is good, and we got some great friends and people with some really interesting stuff. But I can't wait to get to the point in the next year where we're booking and interviewing and talking through guests that we're meeting for the first time on air or just beforehand. I think that's going to be a new kind of season for us. And I want to see people get some guests on here that come from different Christian traditions and even different religious traditions. I kind of joked about it in the first intro episode, but we know a lot of people that probably have some maybe funny and most certainly mildly or otherwise traumatic stories from the Catholic Church and Southern Baptist Church. It's ripe for stuff that we talk about here. So I'd like to see that.
Yeah. What things would have to shift in culture, spirituality, and even maybe like capital C church, right? Like the big church. What would have to change where I'd feel excited? Without having to get into all the context of like what kind of church, who's going to be there, just like how do we have hope that spiritual communities, and not just Christian church, right? But like what would have to shift? What things would have to get loud and what things would have to get quiet? Where I feel like I personally can have hope for the next generation for what church can be or spirituality. That conversation fascinates.
Yeah, me too. It scares me and fascinates me. And my kids are young enough where, they don't have the freedom to make that choice right now. Yeah. They're not, a teenager that can go with their friends to a youth group or something, but your kids are. And we have nieces and nephews that are, and different friends that have. So it's. I mean, I'll say for me, I think what's the scariest part of that is that, and I could be wrong, but it feels like the main power holder in Christianity and in churches widely in America right now are the absolute wrong church and Christianity I would ever want anyone to get into.
Exactly.
And maybe that's overly dramatic.
No. I'd say the loudest
But-
voices right are like just we just right before we recorded, there was a shooting that happened in Minneapolis. Someone from ICE, we don't know the details, but shot through a windshield. We spent a good 5-10 minutes talking about fucking scared, pissed, angry. And someone like the representation of the White House, someone like Pete Hegseth, where that's who's getting branded for Christianity. At least they're the loudest voices that I hear right now. And that's why when people start talking about spirituality, I feel like I have to do all these like different questions, like figuring out where they're landing or where they're headed. And I don't want to be suspicious. Right? I don't want to live there of anyone who's talking about spirituality. I have to go through, and that's my trauma, right? That's how it works. I want to have hope that when we're talking about spirituality, that we can be on a similar page of hope and future coming instead of separating and blanking. And that's what's getting the energy.
Totally. And every time anybody tells me, it's even similar to like having an American flag on your house. Unfortunately, it's like, whoa. Okay. Where is this coming from? Which is so fucked up that's where we're at. We're like, oh, you're proud to be an American? Like, I need to investigate like quietly why. Yeah.
I don't like that.
And that sucks.
It does, but it's the reality. So my dream for the pod is that we can give language and ways to process and invite people on who are thinking about it better than us. Like, I can tell you one. Like, I probably should. That I just recently met, that I talked with on the phone about coming to the pod. That they want to turn into like a live podcast where we do it live, like during this festival. Sounds awesome. We'll keep you posted on that. But like that person has a platform that speaks about like white Christian nationalism. What does it mean to belong, to be part of a community? That's a lot more than just like say the name Jesus. It's just like, I want more of those conversations. I want to laugh and mock, and I want to dream of what could be. Because I think spirituality and even church can matter. I don't think it does matter for everybody, clearly, but I think it could matter. And I don't know.
Totally. I
don't know specifically how we're going to get there in the next generation, but I want to at least start the conversation.
Yeah, and I can say I got into a few questions with our mom over the holidays because I said on the podcast. I haven't told you this.
No, you haven't.
Love you, Mom. I'm not going to tease you, so just hang in there while you're listening to this.
Love you too, Mom. Probably a little bit more than Dano after this conversation.
Dad doesn't know how to use the podcast app, so he's not listening, so it doesn't matter, but love you too, Dad. No, but she was really sad that on one of the episodes so far, I said that I'm either an agnostic or an atheist, which the phrase in and of itself, I might be an agnostic or I might be an atheist, means that I'm an agnostic. But what I'm trying to say is I think I am agnostic, and mainly because the world that we live in right now, Pete Hegseth calls himself a Christian and is truly more of a model for today's Christianity to our kids. And, there's other people, I'll just say Charlie Kirk apparently is this huge model for Christianity, where I'm like, if they're a Christian, then I am firmly not a Christian. And what I mean is the values and the actions and the attitude and the words, that is so far from anything that I want to be a part of. And quite frankly, it's far from what I have ever learned about Jesus and from Jesus, from anything or anybody. And so, yeah, I don't know. That seems like a powerful distinction for me. I had an old pastor that said, and this is in times when things were much less volatile, but he said, like, well, those people are like our cousins. We may not like our cousins, but we're still in the same family. And I think, a few years ago or a number of years ago, I just had to reject that and say, like, well, if that's a Christian, then I'm not that. Yeah.
And I think we're saying the same thing. There were during COVID. I remember I was doing a Zoom call with three or four people in our church. Right, that's the group that we drew, but there was this non-binary person part of our church, and I was talking on like, I don't remember maybe it was George Floyd. I don't recall specifically, but I remember saying like, I don't know if I can call myself a Christian anymore. Like, I believe in Jesus. I believe in what the church can be. And I was just being very honest and vulnerable as, I wasn't even thinking as a pastor. I was just thinking as me being Kris. And what they told me, they're like, well, Kris, Dan, I'm not saying this in response to you. I should have said that, right?
Yeah.
But I said, I don't know if I can call myself this anymore. And what they told me was, Kris, that's a sign of privilege of where we can take things off and put things on. And that's fine. But I'm going to carry this, like I keep putting, like I'm putting on a jacket or a robe. And they're like, I'm going to keep identifying and carrying this label with me because I believe in it. And there's a lot of people who have titles and characteristics and ways of identifying that they can't shed. And so, like,
right.
I want to, like, tell a better story about what Christianity can mean. And for whatever reason, that, like, it really confronted me because I was speaking as myself, right? And, like, this where it begins and ends. And then that was, like, one of the first, embarrassingly so, it was one of the first times I thought about, like, well, what am I leaving behind for my kids? And I don't want them to be a Christian because I'm a Christian. I want them to be their fullest selves. I want them to be happy. I want them to find contentment. I want them to find joy. I want them to learn practices to handle disappointment, grief, death. If there's all those things, right? I'm like, oh, that means I have to get in tune with what my story is. And it's okay to be feeling uncomfortable. It's okay to feel like I'm unsure. And so, like, for our kids, like, there's, like, I wrote down the word for the podcast, like, how do we leave a legacy? Not just for our kids, not just for my own story, but what does it mean to leave a legacy of the generation behind us where we don't have that all figured out, but it can be messy. But instead of just having things like, well, that's what it is, I guess we have to leave it behind. It's like, how do we wrestle with these things and be okay if we're not all on the same page, if we're not all moving the same direction? Because I feel like what brought about Pete Hegseth is like, I want nothing to do with that version of masculinity, being an American citizen, being a man, and of course I want nothing to do with that version of Christianity. So I think it's just we're in a ripe time to, like, process. We can shit on it, right, and make fun of it, which we need to, but then what are we inviting people into as well? Because it's way easier just to burn shit down.
Yeah, I think I'll frame it like with kids. Like, I want my kids, I try very hardly to instill the values of, like, love your neighbor, love your enemy, like, is revolutionary, right? I mean, truly, I think it's insane, and it, like, for the good. And if it's built and fostered and grown up in a sense of love, and even, like, certainly with boundaries, but, like, forgiveness and acceptance, all that stuff, I want them to, like, I guess what I'm trying to say, I want them to arrive at a church someday and be like, oh, I already, like, believe so much of what you're talking about. What sucks is that they're going to get to an age where they go on X or whatever and see, like, you know, a different, like, if you're a Christian, then you have to, like, agree that we need strong borders or whatever the fuck. We need to take oil from Venezuela. Like, and that's where, like, I want them to have things already, like, a lot more firmly in place of, like, bullshit. What are you talking about? That is nothing what we're talking about. So, like, the fact that that is co-opted as being Christian now is just, I don't know. I think we do need to switch up what we're leaving them, because that right now, that's the legacy of Christianity.
And maybe it's leaving the term Christianity behind, right? Like, I'm not tied to the label. I'm not even tied to the stream of Christianity. I am in the Christian stream, but, like, I don't need you or my kids or anyone else to say, well, the only way is, like, Christianity. It's like, I want those values and ethics to be not just, like, identify. I want them to be embodied in my kids and the people, the next generation, of where they feel comfortable and confident. If they walk in a church, they could vibe with it, but they would never have to walk in a church to know what it looks like to offer forgiveness, like, or the ways of the conscious eternal Christ. And I feel like right, and I know it's much more complex and nuanced, but right now it feels like the options are, if you're a Christian, this is what it looks like, and if you're not, then good luck. And I know it's way more complicated, and there's much more things out there. But in what we're dreaming for the podcast, I want to bring people on who are doing this differently than us. And maybe people who identify as Christians who can give language and, I don't know, permission to think and embody and extend different. So I just think we need something. We need something more than what is being put out. And I guess really it starts with us, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's heavy. There was a movement in it's been tried before. A certain group of churches, there was a pastor who tried to do the whole, like, I'm not a Christian, I'm a follower of Jesus. And they're pretty much propping up, I mean, truly, they're propping up the same type of Christianity that they tricked us into thinking, that they were against. I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
Like, there's plenty of evangelical churches that are like, oh, we should try to say that we're just followers of Jesus. We're not actually Christians. It's like, okay, well, show us.
Yeah, and I think we're saying the same thing of, like, I'm not interested in that anymore. I'm not interested in rebranding the same thing so that more men can retain more power. Because repackaging that is just a way of, how do we retain power and money? That's over and over and over and over again. I think the way of whatever spirituality or church, Christianity or belonging or becoming looks like is, I don't know. It feels even weird, like, as a pastor talking about this as I lead a church, right? It's like, well, do we need to get rid of the church? I don't think we do. But I think there has to be a higher conversation or a higher way of what it means to belong than, are you a Christian or not? And I don't know if we're there. I find it fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. Even, like, all this conversation is happening with ICE raiding the city I live in right now and shooting protesters. But the people that they're ripping out of this community are Christians.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so fucked up. I don't even, So I'd love to get to learn more about this from different perspectives, to be sure. But.
You know what I thought of is, do you remember the Stephen Curtis Chapman song? I don't know why I thought of this. That whole song he does called "We're Not Home Yet." Remember that? Because we're not home yet. Right. I sound just like them. So if people really believe that, let's just take the ICE agents who might identify as Christian, right? And they're out there enforcing whatever laws and all that shit. If we don't believe we're home yet, and our home is with Jesus or in heaven or the kingdom of God, and our brothers and sisters are the other Christians, how can you justify doing what you're doing? That's it doesn't play out all the way of what it means to be a follower of Jesus. It stops when it stops and starts what my preferences are. And that's what I'm getting at. How do we get to a point of what we say we really believe is something we embody and act? Because that would look fucking insane than what we see represented right now. Which works perfect for what we're going to be talking about. After the break, we're going to be talking on what are the things that Dano and I found, and maybe a lot of you found meaning in practices, what do you call them? Spiritual, what's the word? We'd have spiritual disciplines.
Rites and rituals.
Yeah, things that we embodied and we did that meant a lot to us in former versions of ourselves. And there's some that I want to pick back up, but what does that look like in leaving behind the toxic evangelical expression of it? So we're going to take a quick break.
Hold on, one sec.
Let's hear it.
Well, one big goal I hope to see in the new year for this podcast, more Santa mini episodes. All right, let's go to a break. We'll be right back.
Shit, my pastor said, oh, it's getting wild.
All right, well, we're back to Shit My Pastor Said, where we're going to be discussing habits or practices that we once held and that were meaningful to us at some point in our former versions of ourselves. Specifically for Dano and I as evangelicals, there was things that we were taught and handed and encouraged to do that for a season of our life, maybe multiple seasons, it carried significant weight. And for me, during my deconstruction and my trauma, there were several things I just had to leave behind. And Dan and I have been talking about, like, well, what would it look like to pick those back up? And, like, do we feel comfortable with it? Can we call it something different? Can we call it the same? And then where do we practice it? Where do we experience it? How do we embody it? So I think it's going to be fucking fascinating.
Yeah, and for me, a lot of this has come up in counseling and with talking with my wife and some friends about feeling the absence of some of these things, like the benefit of some of these practices. Like, this used to mean a lot to me and actually did some good things. I don't want to go back to where I got it from, but I want the benefit of it. So is there a place where I can still get some of that in our lives, in our world?
Okay, well, let's start with this one, because and we're going to be jumping all over the map. But let's start with altar calls, because you and I, we grew up at the church that we were raised in as kids, where there was altar calls. And for those of you who have not had to endure these experiences, altar call is someone up front, usually a preacher or a speaker, invites people to respond to a word or the message, or like 20 minutes of shame and guilting them. But really, it's like if you want to experience God, or you want someone to pray with you, or you just want to be by yourself near the front of the church, which is some sort of like holier place. And I had a lot of, I really did have some very powerful transformational experiences during altar calls, or we'd call them also ministry time. It's such a triggering word.
Well, it's better than altar call.
It is. It is. But I'd say an altar call would be much more of the Pentecostal tradition. That's what they'd call it. But ministry time, altar call, a response where you are physically moving from your seat to the front of the church or wherever the desired location is. Were those positive? Do you have any memories of that, Dano?
Growing up, I have positive ones from the last church I was a part of. As we've said a number of times, the versions of our denomination, the difference between the churches that you worked at and that I worked at had some pretty big distinctions, I thought. I think ours was a little bit more like, or rather a little less heavy-handed with like now's the time, decide right now. If you want this, come up front right this minute.
That was very much us.
Yeah. Ours was a lot more like, if you're feeling something and if you want to respond to that and you don't even know what that looks like, you can come up and talk and pray with someone up here.
Yeah.
So a lot of that was, I mean, I had plenty of positive things of like, I'm feeling really down this week and I'm feeling really stressed and I need to like, there was something to like getting up in front of everybody, and maybe as like a staff pastor, like it was like modeling like, hey, this hit home. Like, I'm going to go up there and kind of show myself and show other people like I'm struggling and I need some encouragement. I need some help from whatever prayer might offer me with another person.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It just like, when I think about it, without getting to specifics of like specific moments, there was something alluring of being able to sense something inside. Now, full disclosure, a lot of what got brought up was manipulated, right? It was like a emotional manipulation tool of saying, well, what if you want this? Do you want that? They named general difficult things in our life that most people would say, like, yeah, I want to experience more freedom in my life. I want less pain emotionally in my friendships, whatever. But there was something alluring, something like beckoning, honestly, that felt very alive, of like, I'm going to participate in what I feel God is doing, and I'm physically going to use my body to participate instead of just being like in a spiritual exercise or a conversation in my head or just a prayer. There was something about putting feet and my body into the process that made it a much more deep expression, a much more meaningful expression.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if that is something that at one point was important to us, what can it look like now, and where do we find it? And for me, I'm unsure specifically how to find it, but I think there is a benefit let's just say friends, right? If you're a group of friends and saying, I have a feeling or I have a challenge or I have an opportunity or I'm feeling grief, what would it look like to like have a physical response to that? How could we as a group of friends or family like help people move from just like, well, that fucking sucks, good luck, man, don't you go dying on me, to some does that make sense? Like how do because I do think there's a value of like showing community support of using our bodies, not just our words. Like where do you see that happening, or how do you see that it could happen?
I think that's a great question, and I don't have a good answer. Beyond just, so part of this is going to bleed into like confession, because I feel like that is
similar.
I feel like that the church did serve a purpose in this role of giving people a place to like, and I think sometimes in a healthy way to like humble themselves.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, like if you do a sermon on racism and how everyone has racism in them, and white privilege is real and whatever. We know a person mutually that did this at like a national conference, who most in the room would say like, they can make the claim that they aren't very racist at all because of a number of facts. And they run up to the front as the first one to be like, I still have racism in me. I know for a fact I do. I want to show the world that I believe that I have racism in me. Maybe that's not the best example, but like, with friends, I think like I think there is a place to be like, hey guys, we normally just have beer and wings. I just need to say I'm really depressed, or I think my marriage might be over. I'm not saying this about Dano. I'm saying, but you know what I'm saying? Like I think that is extremely powerful to do like that show of moving your body and your voice to be like, hey, I'm really struggling with this. I want somebody to know it. And I want a few people to see it.
Yeah.
Do you think that's worth it?
Well, yeah, I do think it's worth it. But I like what you said. Like the church does have some practices traditionally that has helped move in humbleness. Like we need that, right? Like how to kill the ego. And because now even thinking about like, if I texted a friend and said, hey, I'm not doing well. For me, I'm feeling super anxious and I'm nervous about this meeting I'm going to have. If that friend said, I'll be over in 5 minutes, I'd be like, whoa, no. I just wanted to, right? Like, I just wanted to say it. But we don't have a lot of places, or maybe people have different friendships. Because I feel like I show up when it's like really fucking bad, right? Like, I still remember my buddy when he lost his dad. Right? It's like whatever I'm doing, I'm going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But like, where do we find the outside of therapy and our doctor's office, maybe a lawyer, of where we confess a need, invite other people to join in it with us? Because that's the whole point of an altar call. Is like, there's a lot of us in the same boat, and we don't like to talk about it. So how do we find community or solidarity or belonging or believability in like this shared experience? Like, because I'm not going to go there. Like we have it in hobbies, right? We have it in places. Hey, we all enjoy this thing, but where do we go and say we have a common hurt or we have a common grief? AA, right?
Yeah.
Al-Anon, which is its own version of community and church, but like, I don't know. I think that's. I didn't.
Well, this is the whole crux of it. Yeah. Because it's. I feel like, we're saying a couple different things. I think I used to see ministry time as more about, or the act of getting up and people in front of the whole church. Like that in and of itself was powerful.
Yeah.
Not that everybody knew what you were going up there for, but if you and your wife go up there and start bawling and people are praying over you and some people know that you just had a miscarriage or something or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like there's power in me as a congregant seeing, oh shit, you know, John Doe is up there and he's like the CEO of whatever. Like this says something to me. You know, like, and
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever.
But wouldn't that's like, are we afraid or are we hesitant about being needy? And do we do a good job at communicating that not everything's great and actually that's okay? Like,
Right. I mean, I've cried in front of my kids. I feel like that's something. And I mean that.
I
mean,
cried
truly.
every goddamn
Like,
day.
no, but I mean, like, you know, Pete Hegseth purports a different type of person than I am in this regard of like, I want to show my weaknesses to the people that know me. And I want people to see that I'm vulnerable and resilient, you know, like,
Yeah. I don't know. That's good because I'm hesitant even talking about it more because I'm like,
well, Kris, seriously, like when I left the staff of the church, I still attended there. And I think I wouldn't have done that nowadays. I'm a different version of myself. But I still got a lot out of going up there at ministry time. And I don't see a place in my life right now that matches that in a public setting.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
What could it look like? Is there any value of having a place of where we can respond collectively? Like we do that with memorials. We do that with like, what do you call them? Vigils. But man,
Do we do it on social media?
yeah, we do it on social media, but I feel like it's
Different.
It's different. Because you're right. Like I didn't think about ministry time being part of like you were publicly responding where people see that you have a need. I was thinking more. Imagine this, just myself. That is powerful. It's like giving permission. That's the wrong word. It's like owning that I have a need. Huh. I guess.
I think it starts with the people closest to you. I've, through therapy, have come to the determination or, you know, the reality that like, tell your wife when you're having a bad day, like open up preemptively, you know, about feeling down or angry or whatever. Like it'll help you and it'll help your relationship, you know?
Yeah, like what I wrote down on this was that there's something beautiful about having a practice of where you can be a part of a group or a community when you have a time in need or a time of it doesn't have to be like a horrible thing. It's just being like, hey, I'm lonely or I'm feeling disconnected. There's something powerful about having other people where you're putting that energy into the universe. But there's also something about the boldness of like, I don't want to wait on this anymore. Like I am not okay, or I see there's opportunity for connection. And God maybe, but there's something about connecting with that group of people that even if you're just standing up there together, oh man, I have all these memories flooding in of like, even in the expression of ministry time, people would come around and like put their hands on you.
Mm-hmm.
And that felt so sacred. And like, I am not a big physical touch guy, but like when like our friend Anna Hansen is one of the best huggers I know. Like and then when she talks to me, she'll put her hand like on my tricep, like randomly when she wants to communicate something to me. And it feels so good to have like someone I love, someone I care about who's physically affirming me and saying things or even just listening and being with me. There's like, I'm not super intentional about that, of like the touching, and we can get there over a long conversation, but I would love, the whole point we said is that we have to have a place of where do we find it? I guess this is one I want. I don't know how I find it.
I literally put in my notes, nowhere. I don't know a place to find that same power. Because again, I don't want to go to an evangelical church and sit through the whole service and go up for ministry time.
No.
I'm not going to ever do that again.
No.
But the power of that, I don't know where to find that. And even like the healing of, or, the laying on of hands, I don't know where it came from, but my therapist is into it. My wife has taught me a lot through it. It must, or not must. I know it comes from like some thing that's gaining popularity, but like the metaphysical power of like a 15-second hug can like dispel a certain amount of stress. And like, that's so simple and basic. I know. Yeah. But like, it's new to me. And it works. It's like, oh yeah. Like when my kid is having a tantrum, there's something about like, hey, all things aside, just come in here for 10 seconds and let's move let's take a walk. And that just like does something metaphysically.
Yeah.
But again, the ministry times when I'm really struggling with something and 3 people lay hands on me and we'll call it prayer, that used to feel like so beneficial and so powerful.
Yeah.
And I don't know where else to get that.
The only place I've felt that similar connection, you're right, like, is after with friends or with my wife, crying a lot and being like snot on the floor, vulnerable and honest. It's like that vulnerability, or what do you call that? That sensation after you're really honest, right?
Yeah.
It feels I can't replicate that anywhere else. And the church had a way of doing, like, I'm with you. I would never do that again, ever.
And at the time, we wouldn't have gotten together with 5 to 8 friends and cried and done that if we wouldn't have been a part of that church.
Never.
Yeah.
But like, I can still think of being in a couple people's kitchens and not wanting to talk or get prayer, and then listening to one other person share, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm feeling that too, and how connected I felt with myself and those people and whatever we call God. I want to let the record show, I'm not advocating that we go back to these practices in those same places.
Right.
Yeah. I don't want to go back and add harm. But I imagine as we move on, right, I imagine some of these are going to be easier to replicate. This is one that I thought we'd stumble into, like, oh, naturally it'd look like, okay, what about this one? Okay, Dano. Scripture memorization.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty cut and dry.
Okay.
I think that the power of it, or what it was, and the power of it was, internalizing quote unquote truth or powerful messages in the Bible. Newsflash: the Bible can say a lot of different things and fall on many sides of an argument or a belief. So I do think that with that, I think there are some good, I'll say, truths in there that would be beneficial for anybody if you found them in any holy book. You know what I mean? And so, like, to internalize that by memorizing a phrase or a scripture or a passage, certainly in Christendom, that was a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Or at least billed as one. But I can see their point. Like, I say this a lot, or, with my counselor. This is the whole premise on why I wanted to do this episode for my part, was because this does come up for me a lot.
Yeah.
Of like, there's a vacuum in my life, and I'm realizing some of it was because I don't do some of these practices. I don't want to do them that way anymore. How can I find them again?
Yeah.
Where like the creator of the universe, according to Christianity, sees Dano and wants to know me and loves me.
Yeah.
Like, and any verse in the Bible that I could find that would, like Psalm 139 is often cited as that, like, that used to help me a lot, because that's a powerful ass thing to say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Like, I think of scripture memorization. I don't often recall like specific verses that in the moment. The one that I do though is the parable of the what do you call it? The son that ran away. I should know this at the seminary.
Prodigal son.
Prodigal son. Thank you. at the end when the father who's playing as God says to the son who stayed home, says, "Everything I have is yours, and I'm with you always." That is like a mantra that I use over and over in my preaching, but like just for me personally, of when I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling lonely, especially.
Yeah.
If like, oh God, if I would have done that, if that person would have called me, if it's almost like a saying, I'm okay if, I'm okay when, instead of like, I'm okay. But outside of that one Bible verse, I think of like poems. Like there's a poem that our buddy Kyle, who will be on the podcast coming up soon, he wrote a poem called "And There Will Be Wars" that he wrote himself. Even now, like it just wrecks me of like, it gives me hope of that there's fucking horrible things are happening in this world, and can I still be okay? So like,
right.
Instead of it being the Bible, now it's gone to like Jeff Tweedy, like how to cure loneliness. You just smile all the time, right? As a form of mockery. I think of Tyler, the Creator, his newest album, like "Don't Tap the Glass." Like there's some lines in there that like inspire me, like, oh, I don't have to settle, I don't have to stop, I can be moving. So I find like what King's Club or whatever the fuck it was called when we were kids and we got prizes for memorizing scripture, I used to feel, honestly, I'd feel horrible that I couldn't do as well as other people, and I felt like a less.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, right. Like they taught us that, not intentionally, but they still handed us of there's people who are better than you because they know more, instead of what if what I know is enough and it's enough for me.
And I mean, a lot of the things that I used to get a lot of power from in the Bible were poetry, were like raw emotion put creatively into verse, with universal themes like a broken heart, feeling dried up. I haven't felt this, but like being a refugee and one day you'll return, and like water to a dry desert, you will grow again new. I mean, like all that shit is like probably found everywhere, but like that's some powerful shit that singers still sing about today,
Yeah.
But as far as memorizing, I guess I do with songs a lot. I don't memorize whole songs, but there are a lot of just little, truly one little sentence that's just like I hold dear, and I'll never, I'll keep it in my heart always, like one of David's songs.
It's one that I still use. I actually just used it on Sunday during I was doing the benediction. I went and saw Richard Rohr in person one time when I was in my 20s, and in some small church in a suburb of Minneapolis, and he did the whole "I'm enough for God and God's enough for me." Like, let that be as you breathe in, you say, "I'm enough for God." As you breathe out, God's enough for me. And that has stuck with me. I just thought of it, of something I memorized that I use as a mantra to like help me work through my anxiety. I think there's more that have fallen outside of the Bible that I use that I'm not always in touch with.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay. What's another one for you, Dano?
I think the opening page of John Steinbeck's East of Eden, there's some stuff on there that I think about all the time.
About memorizing?
What sucks is, or you meant, yeah, I meant, I thought, I see that. I see now that you're moving on.
It's called a pivot.
Let's see. I'm going to say spiritual discernment. This recently came up for me. What it is is asking God what decision to make, which I think you can probably confirm.
Huh, that's fascinating.
Anyone that's like 16 to 26 is a huge motivating factor on why they come to church. What do I do with my life?
Okay. I thought you're going to a sex thing. Okay.
No.
Because we all know we start having sex at 26, obviously.
Some of us start, my man. Anyways.
That's the title.
All
of
right.
the
So what it is,
podcast.
asking God for what decision to make, help with the decision. I mean, truly, this has got to be one of the basic premises of religion, right? Like, what do we do? Give us guidance.
Like, what is our purpose? Yeah.
Because this is something, I'll just jump to it. You know, like my therapist said to me, like Christianity or religion even doesn't have the corner on this. They don't get the market on. And so she really encouraged me to like just ask that question just to the void, just to me sitting looking at a field or whatever. And I'll say it feels way sillier to do that. And to just receive the answer in the same way that I would with God. Because I'm a mystic, and I was a mystical Christian of just like, I'm going to ask a question, I'm going to pose it, and then I'm going to just empty my mind as much as I can and just see whatever answer arises from that silence and stillness.
Yeah.
And I used to attribute that to God. And it feels sillier to just do that without me thinking about a supernatural God being in the mix. Because at least then I had some intellectual premise on where that answer might be coming from, where I don't right now. Does that make any sense?
No, it totally makes sense. Like, do you have anything else? I have a response, but do you have anything else you want to share about that?
I've been trying to do it more, and it still feels silly. But what's the difference if I'm not sure there's a God or not, and certainly the way that I used to think there was, what's the difference of just trying it out now and seeing what happens? And most of the time, I think it's probably coming from within me, or from a desire or an inkling or my true self or whatever, my desires, my suppressed, whatever, attractions, dreams, whatever. And so I think it's probably a good practice just to try into my own stillness,
Yeah, and I would say the first thing that came to mind was Christianity doesn't have the corner market on anything, right? Except Stephen Curtis Chapman. Thank you, church. But it gives a container of where we can play and practice some old ancient things, right? And part of any spiritual tradition or any religion is giving you icons, language, practices that have been used for hundreds, if not thousands of years that have, quote unquote, worked for some people, not all people. But there's still a venue of where you can play it out. It's like going into a closet and trying on clothes that fit and don't fit. It's just, have we been able to go outside of it? Because even what you said, I like the word used. You feel silly because you use the word intellectual understanding that was coming from God. Hey, what's up,
right.
dog?
Sorry, that's my dog Murphy having a response.
That dog. What was I talking about? The container. It feels silly outside of it. Here, let's take a break, Dano.
No, it's fine. Keep going.
No, I do want to take a break because that is very distracting.
Okay.
And how can we hear your dog if you have your AirPods in?
I don't know.
Do you have it on silence, noise cancellation? Because I also heard a siren outside.
Did you really?
Yep, I heard the police car go by.
I do not have noise cancellation on these earbuds.
You don't?
No. Hey. Murphy. Come here. Okay. She's good.
Are you sure you don't have noise cancellation on them? Oh, it's okay if Murphy is making noises. It's the unrelenting until they get what they want.
Yeah, she's by me now.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't mind if the dog makes noise. It's the...
I don't either.
Yeah, okay. I'll jump back into... I'll go back to where it was. All right, we're starting now. I like that the church has given us, at one point in our life, a container to practice some of those things. Because you use the word silly, of going into the void, asking a question, but then you use the word intellectual. I had the intellectual understanding to know where that voice was coming from. But the only way that we could have, someone told us that's what God is because someone told us. That voice is God.
That's a great point.
It is. And so like they're still giving you a container to play it, but they're still trying to give you boundaries. Instead of saying, because that theological belief is that there's a God who is interacting with us specifically and says, I know you so well, I'm going to speak to your question about should I go on a date with this person. That makes us feel good, but it is such an egocentric way. All right, that's a God who's going to then wants to be involved in every little decision in our life. And if we don't ask, then we might sin or go off the rails. We might make a mistake.
We might go crazy.
Or we might go crazy. But my argument on is that then that's a God that needs us to ask it or her or him in order to get the idea. And that's a God who is going to withhold blessing because you didn't ask the right question. That is just one of, that is an absolute fucking monster of a God. That would say, well, you didn't ask me, so here's cancer.
Right.
I don't, as a process theology-minded person, I don't believe that God, I think we experience God in so many different ways. But I love the idea of going to the void and asking those questions. And so many different spiritual practices or spiritual communities have that as a practice. Like the Quakers have it.
Like inner wisdom.
Call it what. Yeah. I have no problem calling it God, but God is not withholding herself. That's what I believe. I believe God is immersed in every element of energy in all the universe. And if we're willing to pay attention, we can come in contact with that God. I don't believe that I am a God. Like my 17-year-old son just texted me and said, Dad, what's pantheism? Like hand of God, just 5 minutes ago said. If you knew my son, it's on brand. I love him so much. And pantheism is the belief that everything is God. Pantheism is that God is in all things. And I line up way more on the pantheism. Because then when I'm speaking to the void, like that spiritual discernment, right? That's what we're going back to, is I can trust that all of wisdom and life is found in the trees. It's in Jay Cook. It's in Chubb Lake. It's in our conversation. Like, do you remember? This is so random, but do you remember when I was drinking on Christmas Eve and at like 11 o'clock I made us martinis that were
Yeah, I barely remember. I remember our dad saying the next morning, he's like, I saw that wobbly tray coming in. I was like, oh boy.
but even in that, right? There was wisdom. There was not wisdom in the doing it, but there was. But I'm saying we can discover things at an 11 o'clock martini drink on a Christmas Eve because it feels like this is a way for us to connect, right?
Right.
And it doesn't mean it's smart, but it means we can discover things. So the church gave us a container, but was meant and shamed us when we looked for answers for spiritual discernment outside of that specific church. But what if it was meant to be like a practice that we could develop and carry with us for the rest of our life? That whatever God is, whatever ultimate reality is, all that is found is within one another. Not necessarily God somewhere else, but within the relationships and the community and the earth and us.
Yeah, and I think maybe we'll use this as a pivot to the next one, but like getting quiet and still and meditating and getting all the other voices out of my head and to-dos, I think something within me will speak to me about the thing I'm thinking about most or about a decision I have to make, which could bring us to quiet times. Quiet times or devotional.
Tell me more.
Daily devotions.
Yeah.
We used to call it a quiet time or a daily devotion. It's time with the Bible and reading and praying on how to live and prove faithfulness is a good way of saying it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of churches urge this. I just saw actually a priest from Minneapolis has like a wildly successful podcast about reading the Bible in a year. I forget their name, but
Well, I don't know
like a daily devotion of trying to get through the Bible in a year, and Catholics do everybody does this, right?
Yes.
Call to prayers, whatever it might be. What do you think? What could it become?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think a daily devotion. I was trying to think of like my daily devotion that I do every day. So I'm going to do 3. 2 of them are goofy, but they mean so much to me. I love waking up. I'm a morning person, and if you ask my family, they are not happy that I'm a morning person because I like putting on music like at 6:30 in the morning and dancing and moving, and that's like part of my devotion is not so much of the reading, but more of like a practice I am participating in because it fuels me. It gives me hope. I am an anxious person who feels lonely a lot in this stage of my life, and feeling that connection to music. It doesn't have to be like I already said it, but I listened to Tyler the Creator this morning, and there's a part in there where he replicates the crisscross jump. I just, for whatever reason, it just hit me this morning, and my wife was not as excited about it as me. But my other devotion, 2 other ones quickly, is that I take Dano can see me, but like I put my hand on my chest and I close my eyes and I breathe and I tell myself some affirmation of like, I'm good. I like the word. I use the word good and beautiful a lot because a common point of shame for me is that I'm stupid and ugly. So like saying that devotion, it means something to me, right? And then I read every day before I go to bed, and I don't know what it is. It's like getting lost in Stephen King novels and getting like I'm reading the Hail Mary Project, which is so fucking good because I realize I want to read something before I go to bed that makes me feel hope and get lost in something that's not just my stress or my job or the church. And so it's almost like the anti-daily devotional instead of it being the Bible. It's like I'm now finding practices outside. I'm still a big fan of the Bible, but I'm letting that wisdom from the Bible transcend into different practices. And it's been so, I think even right now, like I didn't realize how meaningful those practices are.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
I don't know if I have any daily stuff. I think this one's pretty easy as far as like where to find it. I think daily exercise, I think meditation, which I'm trying to get back into. I think if anything for me, it's like a few times a week I go on a hike. If I'm in certain spots that are sacred to me, certain forests or whatever, those are extremely spiritual things that I wish I could do every day. Because to me, it's like it has the same power of like seeing this beauty and reflecting on it silently and not judging it or anything, but just letting it like breathe energy and life into me.
Yeah.
Like really does fill me up for a few days at the very least.
I have if we could talk about this later, I'd be fascinated to know where we got this from. But like, I remember you telling me years ago that there's specific trees that hold a lot of weight for you, like in spirituality and some sort of sacredness. And after you told that to me, I was in Jay Cook, and there's a place I call it my secret place.
Jay Cook is a state park in our hometown.
Thank you, Dan.
Just so everybody knows.
In Carlton, Minnesota. And there's a part I call it my secret place because it makes me feel pretentious and better than everyone else. But there's a group of these 4 cedar trees that are just like right on the way to where I'm trying to get to. And I stop every time and like I touch the trees and I thank them. And every time I start it, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And then,
but
then I feel like this deep connection to not just the trees, but to the ground and the people. How many more people that I'll never meet from hundreds or thousands of years ago have been on the same spot doing the same thing. Just makes me feel the whole idea of like from dust we were created and dust will return. Like, it grounds me.
Totally. I think sunrises and sunsets are similar for me. Like, if I'm in a spot where all of a sudden I realize that the sun is setting, I try to stop and just like, just sit there and watch it and let the light hit my face. I said this to you before, but like, I want to know, maybe you can recommend a good book on like, why doesn't everybody just worship the sun as a god? Because it seems to be the most consistent, obvious god.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But that's, again, a god is just a name, it's something we name that we can't ever name. And so whatever ultimate reality is just this longing, it's this desire that we project on other things. And so whatever, you can worship the sun, right? I don't think, I might get fired and I'm okay. Like, you can worship whatever you want. It's just about transcending you to a higher place of where you can find belonging and contentment. That's all it is. So whatever vehicle gets you there. And that's why I have such a, well, we don't need to get, just have a problem when people are like, it's a slippery slope. It's like, how do you think you got to your tradition? Don't you think it begged, borrowed, and stole from the Babylonians?
Right.
Do you think that Christianity just all of a sudden arrived in its perfect form? Things were picked up and put down for a good reason. So when we try acting like, no, we finally have the whole truth, it's just like, and again, to go back to Pete Hegseth and that whole thing and the Charlie Kirk, like, certainty, it's disgusting to me because it doesn't hold weight. It can't hold water.
Right. I think the reason we don't worship the sun to that point is that there was probably a lot of years where people were afraid when they went to bed if the sun was going to rise again. I'm serious. And then so they had to have faith that it would. But then once that certainty was cooked into our DNA, then we needed new uncertainty to have faith in. So then we needed to find something new as a new God. Because like this, once you take it for granted, well, like, yeah, the sun turns out, it comes up every day. Yeah. So now we need a new mystery to like worship and have faith in. Does that make sense?
It does. And Dano, there's a French philosopher, and I do not remember their name. I heard it from, this is deep dive, but I just heard Pete Rollins talk about this. And it was fascinating because it's all on, we will never be complete. And there's something inside of us that needs to be drawn to something we'll never have. That is a very human story we tell ourselves that keeps us moving. So it has to be something unattainable. Because if we ever attain perfection, it wouldn't last. It wouldn't hit what we need. So there's always this calling or draw to the unattainable that makes us human. That's fascinating.
That is fascinating. All right, give us another one.
Okay, let me buy time till I pull this. Okay, what about calling or anointing? Because that was a big part of the charismatic movement. Was you have a calling on your life, you have an anointing on your life, which has always felt really sexy to hear from other people. And it felt amazing to tell that to other people. Like, hey, I see God's calling in your life. I see you're really anointed at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think it's like an extremely romantic premise.
Good word.
Which is why I bought into it hard, and which is why it fucked me up very hard. Because I think this is like, let's try to think of an example. Like Lord of the Rings shit. Like, only you can do this mission.
Oh, yeah.
You are specifically chosen to be on this team or whatever. Because like I longed for that, like being, like most people probably just like, I don't know what the hell I am or who I am as a 10, 12, 14, whatever year old kid. And then so for someone to tell me like, oh, you might have a calling into something that's like the reason you were made was to do this. That's a dangerous thing to fuck around with, but I think it was thrown around way too easily.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's necessarily true, obviously, but
I don't think it's true as in there is a calling and it's defined in this one specific job. I think it's a form of manipulation and retained power. It goes back to patriarchy of when we tell women your calling is to be a homemaker, right?
Right.
Because if we believe that to be true, who benefits the most? As a question you should ask all the time. If we believe this to be true, who benefits the most? So when the pastor or the denomination or the leader says, here's your calling, that is cultish behavior, right? But I've had people do that in funny ways and really damaging ways. I've also seen it in really beautiful ways. Because if the calling, and this is, where do we find that now? Like what I should write down. I wrote down speaking kindness, it's letting purpose shift with seasons without guilt. Like permission to feel, I feel the universe calling me. So it's not a definitive calling if it can only look in one expression, but that in our life as we age, as we evolve, as we find transformation, as we have grief, shit needs to change. And I love the idea of that the universe is calling me into a new season or into a new practice or into a new rhythm, which from my charismatic days, it feels very natural for me to move with that, where other people, it might be more difficult. But I like the tradition that they gave me. I'm just not holding on to the definition of the calling has to be a missionary, a church planter, or whatever the 4 jobs that you could have.
Right. I do find it really beautiful when I'll use 2 quick examples, but like our cousin Emily, from as long as I can remember, loved to read and would read 1,000 books, from like a little young child. And then she grew up to be like a PhD English communications doctorate, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and professor, like, that's like consistent. She started doing something when she was super young because it was who she was. And now she's still doing it and like sharing it with others. I think that's great. The other one is my buddy, Andy, who is one of those kids, like, or one of those guys rather that, people, one of those people where like kids truly flock to. Like if we're just in even in like a brewery where families are around, like kids will just come up to him like he's fucking Santa Claus. And he's like an early education special ed teacher, and he's like the best. Yeah. And it's like, this is so, if there's such thing as a calling, like you're nailing it. Yeah.
But like even that, like the church, what's the word? Almost like hijacked a very beautiful, sweet thing of like, hey, it seems like you're really naturally gifted towards this. It seems like it's just in your wheelhouse that you have this level of empathy or whatever it might be. And the church says, oh, now we're going to define it. Instead of like the church can be a part of that stream, right? We're going to help people who need a container to learn how to do this. But that should be everywhere, right? Of like helping people come into their fullness of themselves. Like I know for me where I felt, oh God, this is really, but like where I felt a lot of my calling was in therapy of having, and we could call this several different words, but being able to sit and say all the things I couldn't tell anyone else because I was afraid of being laughed at or mocked or even being fired, right? And for someone else to say, I hear that, and that, Kris, falls in line with the things you shared 2 months ago. And can you see how these are not opposing, but how they really benefit each other? It's like, oh my God, having someone else be able to reaffirm the things I find hopeful and beautiful. Like I want to do that with my kids, right? But that's complicated because I want their calling to be what I think they should be.
Right.
Where do we find, like, therapy is one place, but like
professional athletes. That's what you want your kids to be.
I thought you were saying we need to find the calling from a professional athlete. So I'm like, where are you going with this?
Hey, I'll take that too. Give me FaceTime with a professional athlete.
But I do think that there's times I feel like even in my friendships where I've laid back on saying things like, here's what I love about you, here's what you're really good at, because I'm like, who's it my job to tell them what they're doing? But then there's other times I'm like, God, I really loved when people said, it seems like you're taking a lot of interest in this, Kris. Have you ever thought about
Yeah, exactly.
Like, do we not do that enough because we're afraid that it's not polite? Does that make sense?
I think, yeah, I wonder if we don't do it enough with our peers because it's like, well, what are they going to like question their career? We don't want to stir the pot too much when it's just like, again, or not again, but like encourage and fan the flames on something you might notice in someone you love and let them kind of respond to it the way that they would want to. I don't know.
Yeah. So let's end with one more then.
Can I just say real quick?
Yeah.
It's the first Wednesday of the month at 1:00 in Minnesota, Minneapolis at least, which means that they do the air raid siren tests. At 1:00 in Minneapolis on the first Wednesday of every month, they do an air raid siren test. So all the sirens in every neighborhood goes off.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you the spike in anxiety I just got on the first Wednesday of the month at 1:00 when 3 hours ago someone was just murdered by ICE. And now I'm hearing sirens go across the city. That's scary shit. Anyways,
yeah,
we can cut that out if you want.
No, that's good. I was gonna thank you for sharing that. I affirm that you're calling. But what you were just talking on, calling an anointing and seeing something in our friends. Do we say it? Do we not? Like one of the things we brought up in here was prophecy, which has come up a couple times, right? That we've laughed at it and processed it is the polite word. But what does that practice? Because I could think of several times prophecy being really impactful for me, of hearing a word and even giving a word. And I want nothing to do with that ever again. Yet, I still have that similar feeling, that premonition, if that's the word that you might want to use. Like, where do we use that now? Because to me, prophecy at one point, was it God? I don't know. But was it intuition? Yes. And did we have intuition around people that we knew to some degree? And we knew their life, and we knew what it was like to be that age or that person living in that stage of life? 1,000%.
Right.
And I do think there's power in wisdom and connection of when we can say the quiet stuff out loud. And there were some rules that were given to us. If you're going to do prophecy, it was you have to remember, you can never prophesy like death,
Babies,
love, like romantic relationships. Was there any other ones that we said were out of bounds? I think
not that I know of.
So if we took similar boundaries, right, and we said in a safe place that we're all consenting to, and that's debatable if going to church was consenting to get a prophetic word, but
right.
You're in a safe place with friends or family or people that you are chosen family, I could see some value and even some beauty of being able to say, here's one thing I've seen about you. Oh, I'll give an example. Oh, man, I forgot about this. We did a staff retreat in at Trent's Cabin in small town Wisconsin, and someone that we both know said, hey, what if we tried this? I just learned about it. What if we get the team together and then we say two things that we love about the person, that what they do specifically brings life to the team.
Right.
And then we all have to say one thing about a specific person, that how they hurt the team.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and we spent an hour talking on, we don't feel comfortable with this. I don't know about this. This feels like it could do more harm than good. And the person just kept saying, trust me. Because the whole team, there was only 5 of us. We all knew each other. We were all friends. It wasn't just like Bill from accounting, right, who I see once in a while. And so we did the positive affirmation, whatever you want to call it, and it was good. And then when we got to the here's one thing that hurts the team, were all things we already knew to be true. Like the things that they all said about me was like lack of follow through. It seems like you don't say the things that you're thinking, blah, blah, blah. And what,
blah, 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 bullshit.
Blah, blah, blah. Fuck you, Karen. Right? But at the end of it, it felt so much richer than the positive things they said because I knew those. But I never said them out loud to other people because I thought, well, as the boss or as a pastor, I have to blah, blah, blah. It was so good of being able to say the quiet stuff out loud. And it makes me think, could we benefit from that in our business, like in our professional careers? Could we benefit that in our friends or in our marriages? I don't know about the marriage thing, but the friends seems like it could be a really good idea.
Well, also, I think like the voice of a prophet, someone explained it to me like in Old Testament or whatever, was like hold up a mirror. And I think like that's what art does, right? I mean, that's what I remember not the first time, but like when I actually listened to the lyrics of Juicy by Notorious B.I.G., I was like, holy shit, this is like a mirror to, a lot of Black experience in America in certain parts of the country that I've never really thought about in this way, and I think like in a lot of circles, like that doesn't count, like why would we listen to this poet or this author or this movie? It's just a fucking piece of art. We don't need to let it speak to who we are. And it's like, well, that's actually part of the point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I love that. Like, I remember you and I talking about a comedian, and it was you who said it, and you're like, comedians are just our current versions of prophets because they say the things that we're all thinking or we're all feeling. We just aren't brave enough, or we don't have the context to say it out loud.
Yeah. I forget. I took that from somebody. Maybe Kurt Vonnegut.
Just take the credit, Dano. I just gave it to you.
Poets and comedians did more prophetic things than a pastor ever did. I don't know. I'm butchering the quote, but it's something to that effect.
It's 1,000%. Because remember the line? It was they were on a talk show, the comedian was, and they said, there's planes flying around in the sky that take us 3 hours to get somewhere that would have taken us weeks and people would have died on the way.
Yeah.
And his whole bit was everything's amazing and we're fucking miserable.
Yeah. Everything's amazing and nobody's happy.
And no one's happy. Yeah. So I think the word prophecy is loaded with negative connotation already. But I do think there's a place of how do we take a collective consciousness of where we have similar feelings or experiences, but we haven't found language for. I do think there's some power and some wisdom of being able to find a place and a way of doing it that wouldn't bring harm. And I'm unsure what that would look like.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any other?
All right. Let's wrap it up with a simple one. Worship music in the churches we come from.
I hope you're going to say that.
A 20-30-minute worship set is very common.
Yes.
It's, as the kids say, very cringe to me now to think about doing some of that. In certain, I think of a popular mega church down here that does like a whole fucking produced light show concert setting worship set every single service.
Interested.
But, like, is there power in communal singing?
Yes.
And I don't know. I think like the only other obvious place we get that would be a concert. And I do think like you said it earlier, like moving your body by yourself and dancing in the kitchen is great. But I think there's also some power, I think you'd agree, but like dancing with other people, I think is powerful. And I'm not sure, like, is concerts the only other place to get that?
No. Karaoke.
Yeah.
A bar when your favorite song comes on and you're singing. Like
Right.
I oh, it just slipped out of my head. I had a perfect example of it, of worship music, and I lost it. So it was profound, though.
But it's probably the same thing as like what we said about scripture memorization. You're repeating things that you are proclaiming as truths that are positive. And when you're doing that with the people next to you,
Yeah.
you know,
So I remember there's something transcendent and what word, binding, or how you connect with other people that I just don't experience if there's no music involved. Like
right.
I was at Surly Brewery and the National was playing, one of my favorite bands because I'm fucking awesome, and and there's this one song called Mr. November where the line goes, Mr. November, don't fuck me over, I won't fuck you over, Mr. November, and he like screams it, and he got off stage, and he does this all the time. He takes a corded mic and he runs around the crowd, and he got close to me, and I remember like looking at him, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs like, I won't fuck you over, Mr. November. And I had just like this moment of looking around. Pretty much everyone was a middle-aged white dad like myself, but I just felt like, just for a moment, just this very communal, very connected feeling, like, almost like we were a mob, like we were just one place because we were singing the same words with the same energy, all moving based around this one guy who's running around the crowd like a madman. And it was like the perfect picture of just like, oh God, I'm lost and I never want to be found. That's so
Right.
overly dramatic, but like I don't know where I can get that lostness. And I feel a little bit of that when I'd sing worship music. We still do, right? Like we sang on Sunday, Come Thou Fount, right? We don't do a lot of hymns. And I was looking at the words, I'm like, this is weird ass shit, man. I don't understand it. But I heard the person behind me say the same, here's my Ebenezer. I'm like, they don't know what the fuck that means. But I'm like, oh, but we are collectively choosing, we don't need to know what it means, but we believe it's going to do some good in us. So we're going to sing it.
Right.
We trust the person who's singing it. I think there's some transcendent power in that.
Yeah, I think so too. Which is why like Christmas carols are so accessible, or like at least provide that. Like it's probably the only other time, or the only time since we don't go to church, like with my kids, that we're all singing the same things. Yeah, I think it's funny in Christmas movies that aren't religious, where they have to do like a communal carol that has a lot of power as some like dramatic buildup, and then it's like, oh, Christmas tree. It's like, this sucks.
But again, does it matter necessarily the words that we're singing? I'd say,
Yeah, I don't think it probably does.
well, I'd say it matters if what words you don't use, right? Like there's some words that could be triggering or racist, or like we try not using male pronouns for God. But I think even just like I went to an experience, I don't even know what you'd call it. It was like a gathering, and they just took the edge of this bowl where it'd make like that sound, and everyone just tried matching that sound, and there was like 400 of us, and it was so deeply impactful because we just were all in one place choosing to do this practice. We believed that the person guiding us was leading it to us, and if we just would have met up on the street and did that, it probably wouldn't have been the same. But there's something about, we are coming together with this intention. Here's the person leading us. Can we believe that it'll lead to something good? I think there I think there could be more of that.
And I think like if there's passion going into it by more than a few people involved, I think that can fill a room up with something that we don't feel very often. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But there's
like
like I think the opposite can be true too. Of if you're in a place and the expectation's there, but even if like the singing is not great, can that ruin the experience?
I think it depends on how bad it is.
Okay, so so that proves like, is it just the singing, or is it the feeling of singing? Is it that we all sing good, or it's that we all just happen to be singing and it's good enough?
I think that's true. I think yeah. I used to work at a pub in Duluth where like they would do these Irish and bluegrass jam nights, and a lot of the premise, yeah, okay. Like some of it was like, oh boy, I don't know about this, but once in a while something would be like, man, there's just something going on here that is rising above, and everyone's just on board. And I mean, to a much more powerful point, like civil rights movement, apartheid. I know like a lot of the protests in apartheid were like all about singing and dancing was a huge part of it. I mean, that's just like goosebumps shit. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's the stuff that like, yeah, it's the stuff that's like transformational, right? That can lead a whole movement. Is when people believe we're going to do this because we believe it's good, we believe it's sacred, and we believe it can save us. Like the whole idea of like liberation theology is that we are going to move in this way because it not only benefits us to be able to survive, we believe it's going to actually bring hope and healing to the oppressor as well. Like that level of believability of what we're doing, this practice, the singing, it's so transformational. And as I think all these, like, where do we find that? And are we going to wait around for other people to do it? Or is there ways that we can practice those now?
Right.
God, I'm glad we talked about this.
Good shit.
This is fucking great shit. You know, if you're listening and you're like, hey, I know the answer to all these things, go to shitmypastorsaid.com and share that fucking wisdom with us.
Yes, please. Kind of a serious one this week, folks. Thanks for hanging in there.
You don't have to hang in there. We are very serious people. All right. Well, we'll see you guys. We'll be back next week with another episode of Shit My Pastor Said.